Call of Duty 2019 is going to make you cry, so prepare yourself with a bunch of tissues because come October 25th, you're going to be bawling your eyes out. So in this new article by PCGAMESN, they had an interview with Joel Emslie and Jacob Minkoff. They're two people that are working on Call of Duty 2019, and I'm going to read you parts of this interview and I'll give you my take on it at the end. I'm not going to read it all, so if you want to check it out, link in the description, give them a click. So here we go. Call of Duty Modern Warfare isn't pulling its punches. We've had play testers cry. That's great. I love when people cry. Call of Duty has gone about as far as it can into the realm of blockbuster bombast as it can conceivably go. Since the original Call of Duty 4 Modern Warfare released back in 2007, the series has returned to World War II twice, changed the course of history during the Cold War, strapped us into exosuits, pitted us against aliens and zombies, and blasted us off into space. This time, however, things are very different. Infinity Ward is setting out to make Call of Duty Modern Warfare the most realistic first-person shooter game ever made. Not in terms of the fidelity of its bullet ballistics, but in the depiction of conflict around the world today. Of the two main stories we've seen, both draw heavily from contemporary events from terror attacks in London to the ongoing civil war in Syria. At a time when some AAA developers have carefully abstracted the more sensitive aspects of their settings, Infinity Ward seems comfortable with such uncomfortable subject matters. We spoke with studio art director Joel Emslie and campaign game director Jacob Minkoff about Call of Duty Modern Warfare to learn more about the game's bold new direction. The question that was asked was, there seems to be more emphasis on authenticity and realism. Is this a reaction to the increased popularity of military shooters like Rainbow Six Siege and Battlefield over the past few years? Joel Emslie said, I think it's a natural place for us to take Call of Duty. If you have someone like Michael Drobot, principal rendering engineer, in your team, you want to take advantage of that. The tone and the mood of the game's narrative is much more grown, much more mature, so you want to render that in an environment that feels appropriate. Naturally, we went for the most realistic visuals we could put together. This also applies to the mechanics. We worked really hard to build the game down to how it feels, looks, and sounds. It just seemed like the natural thing to do when you're trying to reimagine something and step visually and narrative away from something that was fantastic as a three-part series and do it in a totally new way. Jacob Minkoff then went on to say, Call of Duty has taken the bombastic set pieces as far as they can go. You can't just keep turning the dial past 11. At some point, if you're going to have the emotional impact on people that you had back in 2007, then you need to bring things back down, make it more intimate, much more mature, more gritty and cinematic. This is the trajectory of, I think, a lot of good franchises. So another question that was asked was, we saw some events that are pretty close to the bone. For example, the terrorist attack in London. What made you guys want to step closer to real world events? JM said, it's Modern Warfare. I think we as a medium and developers in general are afraid of touching certain topics. We are as afraid now as we were back in the no Russian days. I've only been here for 5 years, so I've had experience with other developers, and I think there is a tendency to feel like we can't do things that Homeland or American Sniper does. TV and movies get to tell these relatable, realistic, relevant, and provocative stories that really touch people. JE said, which is odd because we're working so hard to be cinematic and reach the same level. The question was asked, with some of these traumatic moments like the nerve gas strike and the London bombing, how will you ensure that they're not shown insensitively or without context? They went on to say, there's a huge amount of context built around these events. We've worked with people from all around the world, consultants from different cultures and nations to ensure that we are accurately and respectfully representing these types of events. We've got 2 Middle Eastern consultants on staff who we run all of our scripts through, all of our Arabic, and we've got dialogue coaches on set when we do motion capture. We're not arrogant enough to think that we're going to understand all the nuances of how these types of events and subjects could affect people all around the world. We're not shying away from provocative subject matter, we're not pulling our punches, but we're making sure that we engage as many people as possible to make sure we do things right. So they go on to say about how you can use different guns to break through barriers and shoot through walls and stuff like that, but this is the part that I think is really interesting. So the question was asked, sticking with the townhouse mission, there are lots of situations where presumably you can create civilian casualties. Are there consequences to these? The developers responded, yes, there are. Call of Duty has always had friendly fire will not be tolerated warnings when you kill too many civilians. Obviously, we're trying to make things much more realistic, much more visceral this time, so that if you kill a single civilian, you feel bad, because you might see a woman go for a gun, but instead she's going to grab her baby. We want you to feel bad, and the characters around you will respond and react to what you do. On top of this, we also have a collateral damage score that will give you after each mission, a rank from A to F. We talk about unknowns. An NPC is an unknown until they prove whether they're a threat or not. If you kill no innocents and evaluate all unknowns correctly, then you'll end up with a rank of A, and if you kill more than 3, you will get an F. These are rewards associated with being as accurate with your threats as assessment as possible. So there's a lot more questions through this interview, but I'm not going to go through all of them. I'm going to go to the last part where they talk about the game and what they're trying to achieve with it really. So he says, The context and the stakes are so much higher with this. So when we do a moment like Townhouse, it just resonates much more, and I believe they can become their own thing. We're making new hallmark moments, most definitely. It's because of the weight and gravity we have now. I've never seen narrative in a modern warfare game like this narrative. The stories of the original trilogy were great for that time period, but I think the gaming community expects more now. It has to be more sophisticated, and from what I've seen, it's incredible. There's a really great story driving this thing. We've had multiple playtesters cry. I thought it was a joke when they told me, and then I watched a video of it. It was a real human moment, and now I'm like, I worked on a game that made someone cry. To be making people feel emotions that deeply, we're doing it. Now, there's still a lot more questions in the interview, so please check it out. It's really interesting if you're at all into Call of Duty. But basically what they're saying is they want to go for realism. They want to take inspiration from world events now that are happening in the present and apply them to the game and respect it, but also make you feel more connected to the story and actually have an impact on you. Whereas previous Call of Duty games, they're more focused on just having big explosions, set pieces and things like that, which I think, of course, it's great. Do whatever you want. But for those of you who haven't really been keeping up or don't know much about what's going on, Call of Duty is now having this kind of soft reboot. So it's not an entire reboot, it's just a soft reboot. It's a reimagining, and not a lot, but a loud minority of game developers and some people who have just play tested and seen some of the gameplay behind the scenes are not very happy because they say the game looks too brutal, too violent, too gritty, too real. In fact, we even had Dean Takahashi. I think you'll remember him as the Cuphead guy. You know, the guy that took forever to finish the tutorial on Cuphead. He came out and he said that this game should not be made, which I find completely stupid, especially considering that he's a games journalist. So wouldn't you want more games to be made so you can, I don't know, cover it like you did in that article, you know, making you money? The reason he doesn't want it to be made is because it's not Call of Duty, it's too gritty, it's too grim, it's too real. And I don't understand why that's an issue. I don't understand why you can't just say, alright, this game's not for me, everyone else enjoy it. I don't understand why he has to come out here and make an entire article saying how this game should not be made. Now, it's probably just for clicks, or it probably isn't. Maybe he truly feels this way. And if he does truly feel this way, as a games journalist, him telling a game developer to not make a game is one of the dumbest things I've ever heard for so many reasons. But another thing people are saying is, what about the kids? What about the kids? Oh, the kids, they're going to play this game. It's going to be too bad for them. It's going to be too real, too bloody, too gritty. What about the kids? What about the kids? This game isn't for children. I know a lot of kids play it, but that's not anyone's fault apart from the parents. The developers aren't held responsible for your children playing a game that is too mature for them. Call of Duty is 18 rated, so no, children should not be playing this, and children shouldn't be a factor as to this game not being so brutal. The fact is, this game is trying to do something different. It's trying to be extremely realistic. It's trying to show us depictions of different things going on around our world now, like the terror attacks in London, like the war in Syria and things like that. And if you see this game, you know what it's about, so you don't need to buy it. Vote with your wallet. If you don't like a game, you don't go online and make articles saying this game should not be made. Do you know what you do? You don't buy it. And that way, if you don't buy it, the developers are like, oh, okay, nobody bought this game because they didn't like how realistic it was, they didn't like how gritty it was, so we're not going to make another one like this. That's the way it works. You vote with your wallet. Don't censor games just because you can't deal with them. In an age now where all the games are getting censored like a butt in Devil May Cry 5 or Blood in China, you want to censor more games here in the West? Get out of here. Personally, I'm really excited for this Call of Duty, and I'm not a Call of Duty fan. I've never even played the main stories of a Call of Duty because I've not been into them. I've always tried some of them, but I've never really liked them. Not even Modern Warfare 2, which some say is one of the best ones. This one, for the first time ever, I'm excited for a Call of Duty campaign. And I think this one is going to be really good because it's not going to be so much focused on big explosions like they did before. It's going to be much more down to earth, much more gritty and realistic. And that's personally what I'm looking forward to. A game that in the 10-hour, 12-hour campaign, however long it's going to be, can get me immersed and invested in these characters and actually make me feel something throughout the entirety of the campaign. That's what I want from a Call of Duty game. I know some people may want the big explosions, and that's fine, you know, that's what you've been given for such a while, but I think it's also nice to see what the developers can do, and then after, when the game comes out and we've seen what it's like, then we can say whether it was good or bad, not before the game's even been released. But I want to know what you guys think. Do you think this is an issue? Do you think it's not an issue? Are you excited for Call of Duty? Do you think I was too hard on good old Dean Takahashi? Let me know down below. Don't forget to subscribe and have a nice day.